Hey, bubbling, coming in, crushing this. Alright. Hey guys, we're back with the first sign of summer, Cancer rising. Alright. Straight up, this is the cardinal sign, right? So this is someone that's trying to bring things into being. Also, ruled by the moon. So what they're trying to bring into being, generally, is what they're comforted by, and varies day to day. Just like Aries. Aries, ruled by Mars, knows what they're trying to bring into being, varies day to day. Venus, or Libra, ruled by Venus, would be kind of similar, right? But the things that they're attached to are pretty steady. Like, so generally, like, Libra would be trying to bring things, like, bring up new things, but it would kind of be coming from the same place, ruled by Saturn. And same with Capricorn. Capricorn would be trying to bring into being new things, but generally, it seems like they would get invested in a project, Saturn, and like have to buckle it down and get that done, which seems like the opposition. So brings me straight into Cancer versus Capricorn, first house versus seventh, who you are versus who you generally find yourself relating with. So you're someone generally that wants to be surrounded by what you're comforted by, a little moody, you know, and kind of, yeah, go with the moodiness, you know what I mean? Like, if I don't want to do this, I don't want to do it. Whereas Capricorn is more like, no, we started on this dream, like the structure, this long-term plan. Doesn't really matter if I want to do it or not. I'm going to do it. So, yeah, that's what you'd learn in your relationships, that, hey, a lot of people actually just buckle down and do stuff they don't want to do. Whereas, like, Cancer rising is like, they do? So yeah, that's the first versus seventh. If we go to the fourth versus 10th, fourth house is your home, is where you can just go to be calm, cool, and collected, talk about what's going on. Whereas in the 10th house, selfish action, where how you're seen publicly, or Aries, selfish action. That's funny. Aries, that's where, so publicly, how you're seen would be as like selfish, and this is where things would almost kick off, right? So be careful what you get into publicly, right? Like, this could make you a leader, this could make you someone that could, because you're emotional, if you do ground that emotion in something deep and true, you could be a leader, and you could be like, like all for it, you know what I mean? But and find new ways to go about doing that thing, Aries. But like, it will be true to you, so hopefully that's not too opposing to everyone else, but at the same time, maybe it's for the best. But yeah, 10th house, it seems like that would be like publicly where a lot of like clash would come from with the Aries. So yeah, so if we move on to the second versus the eighth, second, how they like to express themselves is Leo, or what they value is Leo. So this would be like, they really value being able to express themselves truthfully, right? Like this person is not going to want to try to be someone else, which will make sense because they're connected to the moon, and the moon really connects to things. So it's almost like if this person was lying, they would feel the lie. So yeah, so they just don't want to do things that they're not, it's not true to them, because they would be a part of that. Like, they would become that. Like, the moon is very like connective, if that makes sense. So yeah, and then we get to the 8th house, behind closed doors, occult things, mystic things, like the currency in relationships, like things that are unseen, this type of thing. The currency in relationships being, if you build up a relation with someone, there's a bond there, right? That's invisible. So that is kind of like an 8th house thing as well. And also, but it's more so like what comes from that, because it's like you can feel that, but like you don't necessarily know like if your friend's gonna get you a gift, or like that's why it associates with inheritance, right? Like you have a bond with your family, and what's not seen by that kind of just like comes out, and then all of a sudden it's there, and you're like, well, fuck, you know. But anyway, so this would be someone that 8th house would be like, behind closed doors is where their originality is, whereas like what they really value is being a part of something. So it's almost like, that doesn't make sense. Like, behind closed doors, they're just them, right? They're not trying to be anybody else. Aquarius, fixed air, ruled by Saturn, right? So they have a solid way of thinking, and it's across from Leo, it's across from the sun, it's opposing the sun. So it versus the sun does not need anyone else to agree, whereas the sun, it wants everyone else around so that like it can shine, and it can't really shine if no one likes its light, because then it's just going to be shitting. So yeah, like behind closed doors is where they really just stay true to them, but they really do value at the same time being a part of something. So now the 5th versus the 11th. So the 5th being fixed water Scorpio, this would mean once they actually do get into something, it's like they're in it. So their first house, Cancer, cardinal water, they're going to be like throughout their life getting into multiple things, cardinal, initiating many things. But once they do get into these things, fifth house Scorpio, they're going to be in it. Yeah. And then ninth house, if we just talk about the ninth house for a second, we'll come back to it in a more structured way, but just because it's another watered house, you know. Ninth house, Pisces, this would mean like almost like the Aries rising, how Sag is in the ninth, where Aries just goes out there and does a bunch of stuff. They think that this is what they should be doing, you know. They end up robbing a bank with their buddies, and they're like, oh, it's not what I'm supposed to be doing, man. And they learn from that, right? Like, they go out there and have a bunch of experiences that they learn from, like fire, just like ready to act, but kind of just going with the flow, right? Might get sucked up in the wrong things. Whereas Pisces is really emotional, right? So it's like growing up, they get connected to a lot of things, right? Like, they thought, oh, like, whoa, I really should be like connected to this person, like, whoa, this is like our life, we're gonna be like this pair of like unstoppable bitches, right? And then all of a sudden they just fucking stab you in the back, right? And you turned out you didn't really know them, and that hurt. Like, you had an emotional lesson from that. So it's almost like that, where you really, like, ninth house purpose, you really get invested into a lot of things. You really think that this is what you're supposed to be do, and you're just going with the flow emotionally. Like, it's not necessarily something you wanted to do, but you're like, hey, people want to do this, and so you go with the flow. And a lot of times you get burnt that way, unless you're a really strong spirit. But getting burnt that way, or like getting stung emotionally that way, really shows you what you should be doing. So it's like you have a lot of experiences to teach you what's right and what's wrong with Pisces in the ninth house, versus a lighter house, because this is or versus a lighter sign, because Pisces is a deep sign. So yeah, so that's just a little more on the water houses anyway. But if we go back to how we were kind of breaking this down structurally, we talked about 2, 8, and then we talked about 5, and now let's go to 11, 5, 11. So this would be the Scorpio, Taurus axis. So Taurus in the 11th house, I mean, who they do associate with publicly is fixed. So it's almost like what they do publicly is like kind of all over the place, right? You don't really know how they're going to come at it today, or at least when they're associating the public realm, like at work, they don't really know what's going to happen. But who they actually associate with, like the people around the work, like the people that they talk to, like as coworkers, you know, not necessarily like someone that is like your one-on-one relationship that you got really close to, but kind of people that you kind of have to deal with, keep up appearances, you know, like they do something similar that I do, they work in a different department, like those type of relationships are going to be fixed earth, they're going to be solid. And it's just going to be like, yeah, like hopefully you enjoy that's there because it's ruled by Venus. Otherwise, if you don't have like very good public relationships, then it's almost like it would be fixed in a negative spot. So yeah, fixed earth. But it's ruled by Venus, so it is like there is a chance that with those relationships you could get into a solid groove, right? And like just like, yeah, it wouldn't be like too emotional, but it would be like comforting, right? Ruled by Venus, Taurus. So yeah, public relations, 11th house, kind of like, yeah. So then if we go to the third house, because we finished the fixed houses, 2nd, 8th, 5th, 5th and 11th. Then we go to the third, Virgo. So this would be day-to-day activities, right? Where it's almost like on their day-to-days they kind of get lost into things. So like if they really like writing, or they really like filming like videos, you know what I mean? They really like they like day-to-day. Like Cancer, they really like gardening, right? So it's like someone who would get lost like in their gardening. It's someone who would get like lost in that, and like, so it's almost like the things that they do day to day, it's like it would look awesome. Like if you went to their house and you saw their garden, you saw their crafts, you saw these things, like the things that they actually like, it's not like they're trying to create something, it's not like they're going out of their way, just the things they naturally like to do day to day. It's like, this would be beautiful, and like, don't mess with it, because Virgo's here, like, don't. So yeah, because yeah, it's kind of like that OCD energy. We know how it works, we also know how it breaks down, we like it to work. So yeah, so that's the third house. And then we talked about the 9th house, Pisces, across from that. It's like where they get sucked up into things emotionally, and not necessarily because it was their thing, just into other people's things emotionally, to really learn what works and what doesn't when it comes to life. Yeah. So that's the 3rd versus the 9th. Then if we talk about the 6th versus the 11th, so 6th house, when they are trying to like initiate a new structure, when they are trying to bring something new into being, this is where they develop new ways of doing that. So the Sagittarius energy, it's like when they're trying to start something new, like they're bringing about a new garden or something, this is where they may come about it like in a weird way. They may come about it in such a weird way that it doesn't work, but hey, they may have learned a couple things that they could do, even though like there was a lot of things that it's like, what are you doing? Like the Sag, like the new way to act, like being mutable. Yeah, so yeah, like just kind of like going with the flow and like getting sucked up into a lot of ways of doing things and then like learning from that, you know what I mean? So yeah, when they are trying to initiate or like really trying to create something new, it's like in the beginning of their life, this may be something like when things break down and they gotta like work day by day to fix it, or it's something that they just gotta take time to fix, like that they may not necessarily be able to do at first because they may have weird ways of coming at it or stuff like that, but eventually maybe like because there'd be so much experiences here, Sag being in the 6th or just being like a Sagittarius house, that they may have like cool ways of like manifesting new things or bringing new structured things into being, like developing a new garden, or like yeah, when things break down they just have a different way of approaching it, you know what I mean? So yeah, kind of like an out of the box way, but it's like you get where they're coming from, if that makes sense. So then, or you may not get where they're coming from, but it's like you see that they're in it, and it kind of like you connect to their sense of purpose, I guess, with it. So then we go to the 12th house, Gemini. So this would be someone that if like something does break down and they're trying to figure out new ways to fix it, right? Like the Sagittarius 6th house, and then they can't fix it, right? And this is a limitation. This is where they just gotta sit and accept that it's just not their day. Like this is just not gonna go. Like this is something that we just gotta deal with, you know? It's never gonna be as it was. This is Gemini, so this is someone that just wouldn't know what to make of it. Like it could be this, it could be that. I don't know. Whereas like their purpose, they kind of understand that, and then when things break down, like they really like are like they're in it, like they're trying to figure out kind of new ways to do it in a way. But yeah, once it's actually like once it's actually done, they just don't know what to make of it. The Gemini, like it could be this, it could be that, you know. So yeah, that's Cancer. The first sign of spring, all 12 houses, bubbling, coming in, crushing this. Art.